Hello everyone, this is Selena with Selena Thinking Out Loud here with another Storytime Sunday Time with God. And today we're going to talk about how God speaks to us. Now, this is very close to my heart, specifically this week of me studying this, is because going into the first way that God speaks to us is through our circumstances. And sometimes the circumstances may not be what we want to deal with at that present time, or it may be something unexpected that God wants to have us go through to remind us that he is actually in control, that he is actually with us at all times and helping us through whatever obstacle we have, even when it feels like, oh my gosh, okay? So one example of that personally within myself that I want to talk about today was on the 4th of July. I had drove up to the canyons here to be with one of my friends. We went hiking, and then we went to eat, and then after that we parted ways. I went home and I was going to go see firework display and everything later that evening in the community. And then, but on my way home, my car stalled out. It never did that before. And so I didn't quite understand what was going on. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I called my insurance company and I had them tow my car 1.4 miles to my house. That's how close I was to my place, right? And so I park my car and I go overnight. I stay home. I don't go out to any fireworks, and I just happened to see the fireworks from my patio, so it worked out really well. But I thought to myself, okay, maybe God doesn't want me to be out tonight, or maybe he just didn't want me to be on the road anymore, and so this is a way to keep me in one place. The next morning I went and I had the tow truck from my insurance company go ahead and take my car to my maintenance guy that I always go to around the corner from my house. He was starting to tell me all this stuff it could be. He said, it could be your engine. It could have been blown out. It could be the timing belt. It could be different things like that. And this is how much it would cost versus this, how much it would cost. And I'm sitting there and I have my eyes glazed over, and I'm like, oh, you know, when you go to a repair shop, you never know what they're going to find or try to invent. So I'm always in tune with cars and researching on my own and things like that. So I kind of figured that it would probably be this, but I was hoping it wasn't because it's very pricey. And it ended up being my timing belt. So he ended up having to repair my timing belt. And it was a pretty pricey job. But that was the problem, and it got me back on the road the next day. But what I can say is while I was sitting there, I was just asking God, I know you have a reason for this happening to me in my life. There's something you're trying to tell me. And all I could think is, the second thing I could think is, God wanted to let me know that he was always there. He was always there for me. He was always going to be my provider, and he was always going to be there to protect me and keep me where he wanted me to be. And that I knew, and I had the money. It's so funny because I had the money in my account to fix the pricey repair. Everything worked out. I had a great insurance company, USAA, that really came in and really gave me the stuff I needed, so that the tow truck, so I can get to my repair shop and get to my home. So God had put in line all the people and resources to help me to get what I needed to get this job done. And at the end of it, I was like thanking God and just grateful to God that he just gave me that knowledge and gave me those thoughts, planted those seeds in my mind to get the job done. Okay, so that was one way that God used a circumstance personally in my life to let me know that he is always there. If I trust him and I keep myself focused on him, that he will never leave me or forsake me. He will always keep me in his perfect peace and in his protection. So the second way that God likes to work and how he likes to talk to us is through people, through other people. He loves to use other people. He loves to use us as his vessels, even when we feel like we're unworthy, like we feel like we sin and we fall short of the goodness of the Lord. Like, have you ever been, received some encouragement or some advice from somebody that was right in line with what you were dealing with, or something where you needed some advice, you didn't know who to turn to, but the message from this person came to you so clearly that you were like, oh my gosh, how in the world does this person know my business? But they just happen to know, and this is something natural. They weren't expecting, but God was using them as his messenger to you to get a word across to you. Because God is always speaking to us. He desires to have a genuine relationship with us. And in order to have a relationship with you or anybody, God must speak to us, right? So that he can build a genuine relationship with us, a deep, intimate, real relationship with us. And that's how any relationship flourishes, on quality, good communication. So the third way that God speaks to us is through visions or dreams. So if you have visions or dreams, make sure you're writing down those visions or writing down those dreams, because they all are connected. Everything is connected to help us to continue to grow in Christ. And those messages definitely come through dreams. I even have personal experience with that, from a child up even to adulthood. So that's one way to keep track of your visions and your dreams, because they all are telling you something personally. But one way in the Bible that God uses visions is with Cornelius and Peter. So Cornelius, if we go to Acts chapter 10, if you want to read the entire chapter, that would be really, really awesome, because you can get the entire story of how God worked through this whole connection between the two. Now, Cornelius was a man who was upright. He was a centurion, so also known as, right here it says, Italian regiment. So he and all his family, they served Christ. They were God-fearing. They fed the people in need. They cared for people in need. They prayed to God on a regular basis. And so God sent to him an angel to speak to him. And the angel tells Cornelius, he says, at about 3:00 in the afternoon, he says, he distinctly saw an angel of God who came to him and said, Cornelius. Cornelius stared at him in fear. I mean, come on. I'd probably be fearful too to see that. But what is it, Lord? He asked. The angel answered, your prayers and gifts to the poor have come up as a memorial offering before God. Now send men to Joppa to bring back a man named Simon, also we know is called Peter. And he says he is staying with Simon the tanner, whose house is by the sea. So the angel told him to send your men to seek out Peter, because Peter has a message for Cornelius. And so Cornelius sent his men off to speak to Peter. Now later in the chapters, you'll see about verse 9 through 20, God speaks to Peter in a vision, confirming that he was to receive Cornelius's men in his home when they arrived, because God had a word for Peter to give to Cornelius. Now, what makes this so much more unique is because when the men came, Peter welcomed them into his home. But later we find out, which makes this even more amazing, is that by Acts chapter 10, verse 27 through 29, he says, talking to him, Peter went inside and found a large gathering of people. So he followed the men over to Cornelius, and he goes into this room, and he says to them, you are well aware that it is against our law for a Jew to associate with a Gentile or visit him. But God has shown me that I should not call any man impure or unclean. So when I was sent for, I came without raising an objection. So when God is ready to use you, sometimes you may have to go into places that you would normally not tread. You would normally not be, people you wouldn't normally associate with. But sometimes God has to bring you into a certain situation or environment or among a group of people to resolve an issue, to bring peace, to bring hope, to bring, encouragement, inspiration. And sometimes we just got to go when God is telling us to go somewhere. So the fourth way that God speaks to us is he puts thoughts in our minds. Who would have thought that you're sitting here and you're having a thought and you're like, oh, I wonder if I can do that. I wonder how that would look. If God gives you some thoughts, he will make sure that you have the plans, that you will have the blueprint, that you will have all the instructions. He will give you everything you need to see a job or task out to completion. So to show an example of this, we want to go to First Chronicles chapter 28, and we're going to read verses 11, 12, and 19. And we see here verse 11 and 12, it says, "Then David gave his son Solomon the plans for the portico of the temple, its buildings, its storerooms, its upper parts, its inner rooms, and the place of atonement. He gave him the plans of all that the Spirit had put in his mind for the courts of the temple of the Lord, and all the surrounding rooms for the treasures of the temple of God, and for the treasuries for the dedicated things." Verse 19, if we go down, it says, "All this," David said, "I have in writing from the hand of the Lord upon me, and he gave me understanding in all the details of the plan." So that's 4 ways that God speaks to us. He uses people, he uses our circumstances, he uses visions or dreams, and he uses thoughts that pops into our minds. Isn't that awesome? So which way has God spoken to you lately that you know, oh my God, I know this was God? Let me know in the comments below this video. So thank you so much for spending another Sunday with me. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this or other videos throughout the week, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button on my channel here at Selena Thinking Out Loud. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye. And some things that we want, that we're patiently waiting for God for, may not be something that we're ready for. We may not be mature enough. We may not be financially stable enough. We may not be educated enough in the field that we want to pursue.